all things considered, the game is pretty straightforward when it comes to how the game mechanics work. The biggest issue is going to be the get good part of the game. As I said before, I have very little experience in these types of games, and learning the appropriate moment to dodge and when to strike took some time. Most bosses took me multiple tries to beat, some more than others. I think the lowest one only took me about 3 or 4. The worst was at the end of Chapter 1, Commander Honglun. There was another boss before her that took me a good number of attempts to beat due to the sudden difficulty spike for that point of the game, but this was the first one that really just stomped me into the dirt relentlessly. I don't know about you, but I'm not one to give up on a boss fight. Rarely ever will I take a step away from a game and come back to it later, since I refuse to give the game the satisfaction of making me quit. I almost hit that point many times with her. I think it ultimately took me probably 4 hours or so to beat her, and there were several times I just didn't know what was happening. Slowly but surely, something changed. I started noticing more details about her attack patterns and how movesets that started out almost identical had subtle changes that indicated which variation would come next. Once I got the hang of it, I was able to get through her first phase pretty quickly. However, once she got below 50% health or thereabouts, she ramped things up with new moves, and once again I was back to getting absolutely bodied. I refused to give up, and after mastering her first phase pretty consistently, I finally had enough times of seeing her new moves that I got a better handle on it until I ultimately was able to get my revenge and beat her. Probably would have helped if I had remembered that being able to parry was a thing, because that makes other bosses, including her reprise near the end of the game, a lot easier to deal with. Hindsight being 2020 and all. That really sets up the biggest thing I liked about the game. None of the boss fights felt cheap or impossible. I realized that if I was getting repeatedly beaten, I was the problem. The bosses weren't being arbitrary or random. They used the same moves the same way every time. I was the one not properly reading the cues and getting sloppy. When I started getting frustrated and impatient with the game and myself, I would notice myself playing worse. Once I beat Honglun, very few bosses ever gave me anywhere as much trouble. If you can get past her, you can get past anyone. She is the quintessential skill check that determines who continues and who goes on to Reddit to whine about the game being unfair.